some sawdust.
How that I can hold my phone with pop or
Like
how
that?
you might know it as a phone ring or a phone horn, because holding a phone with remote holding.
I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Holding a holding a phone with remote holding can be very difficult sometimes because of the clarity issue. So I wanted to show you my how we modify my cases. That way I can hold them accordingly without any trouble and accessory. And you want to explain to them why we have to modify the accessories?
Yeah. So I'll explain to you why Anna likes to have this modified. There's two reasons. One is the main reason is that the case. So when this magnets work on distance. So the farther they are away, the weaker the grip, obviously. So the case is, while it's pretty thin, even that little bit of cut, 2 or 3 millimeters, that pulls the magnet away from the phone just enough so that it's just weak and it won't quite hold on.
And even her magsafe iPhone scissors are still very weak.
Are they?
Remember, I can't put my pop socket on the phone case because it falls right off.
On this one?
No, on
This one?
on the one that's on my phone now.
Oh,
Remember that?
right. Oh, meaning it's MagSafe for the charger and stuff, but not this?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
Wait.
So maybe it doesn't take much grip to hold it on a charger, but if you're counting on it to hold the phone up while you're using it, you really need this magnet to be pretty much right against the phone. And so I started doing that with Anna's cases. Is just here's her old one. Whoop. So what we're gonna do is this. We're gonna cut a hole just in the right spot so the pop socket can go right in there and grab the phone itself.
And the pop socket is on a platform.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know this. Anna told me. So what she did is this, the pop socket's here, and did you glue it? Was it a tape?
It has an adhesive on the back.
So you bought a magnet off Amazon, right?
Right.
And then it adhesives to the pop socket. So now it's a magnetic pop socket.
Right.
And the magnetic pop socket works great as long as it can touch the phone, but even if it's just a few millimeters away, it kind of makes it too weak. So I started doing this, it worked really well. And Anna thought we could show you how we do it. It's not easy. and you need somebody who's really comfortable using tools. You could hurt yourself, you could easily mess up your case like really easily. So if you have somebody though that's pretty good with tools, we're going to show you exactly how to do it. There's a few little subtleties that are really important.
Yep.
Yep.
Shout out Mr. Planet.
Yo, Mr. Panic. All right, so you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So the first thing I did is I realized that because it was kind of trial and error when I first did it with her. This is a second case I did it to. The first one was messier, and the first thing I do is cut a block that's exactly the same size as the case, so the case can actually fit around it and hold it and keep it from twisting. Because what happens is when I get to the point where I'm going to drill into it, then the case will want to swivel, and you've got to have something that's going to keep it from turning, or else it just spins. It could really be a mess. And so the first thing I do is cut a block that just fits, kind of grabs on the sides like that, and that's what I'm going to use when I'm ready to drill. The second thing I did, and I'll show you, we're going to have a little inset video Anna's going to do, and I'll show you how I marked the case. So we'll put that in now, and you can see how I made a little mark around here using the pop socket when it's on her phone to show where I want the case to be cut, because that's going to be important to get it exactly right, especially with this case. This case has because this is an iPhone 14 Pro, and it has all those lenses, those camera lenses, and it's got this little edge, if you can see the case, has a edge that sticks up. and the pop socket needs to go like right up against this.
Right.
So it's going to be a little ugly. I've got to try to estimate as best I can to hit the hole like right on there, which is going to be harder than, this is the hardest one I've ever done, and I might screw it up. So
and what with any iPhone MagSafe?
Yeah, this works for any iPhone. Yeah, it's
That's
probably even
MagSafe.
easier. That's MagSafe. Yeah, it's probably easier to do with the non-14s because this edge is makes it even trickier. In fact, I know it's easier. So all right. So what I'm gonna do. So this is just a little inset video to show you how I did. So I took the new phone and the new case, put the new case on it, and then I put the pop socket on, which it does hold on. It's just not strong enough because the magnet's separated from the phone by the thickness of the case. And I just took this awl, and I just made a tiny little edge around here. I worked on it a little bit before. So if you pull it off, you see, if I can get it in the light, see that little circle? So now I know where the pop socket is supposed to go. And then I can set the drill so it cuts hopefully right on that circle. Do is, now that I've got it marked with that circle that we showed you in the other video, and so now I'm going to get a measure. I'm probably going to use, the measuring tape is okay, but it's better if you have a flat ruler, because measuring tapes are a little inexact on the edges, especially if you don't have something to push it up against or hang it on. So I'm going to use a regular ruler like this, and what I'm going to do is measure across the diameter of the circle that I made, that I put on here, and I'm going to, at exactly the halfway point, I'm going to make a little mark with that awl. Put that back again. So I'm going to put this, roughly at the midpoint of the circle here, and I'm going to measure. So this looks like it's about an inch, 2 inches. It's 2 1/4 across. 1, 2 1/4. So that means I'll do at 1 1/8 inch, which is half of that. I'm just going to make a little line. So let me do that. And then
Papa really do help you be able to mip your phone and not drop it with and I honestly don't know how that without a pop.
you mean a different way to grip it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Right.
So I didn't quite do that really well, but you can see I made like a little, I don't know if you can see in the light, it's really tough. I made a little mark going this way and one going this way. So it'll make a little cross in the center. And then I'll know that that's the drill bit has to go right there. And that should be, and I don't have to worry about scraping up the center because we're going to cut it all out. So you don't have to worry about what you do to the middle. It can be scraped up or marked or whatever. It would have been easier if I used a marker to do this circle. If you can find a marker that you can erase from the case, then a marker is going to be easier. I did a tiny little scrape with a pointed tool just because I didn't want to have any marker left, when I drill this out. But anyway, so now I've got the center point. And just looking at it, it's always good to double check, because for some reason that doesn't really, to me, doesn't look like it's dead center, but it could just be my aging eyes. So that's 2 1/4. Yeah, it's a teeny bit off. It's pretty close though. Okay, and that's 1 1/8. It's a teeny tiny bit off. And I'll show you the circle, the hole saw that I bought.
We'll try and lay that down below if I can find it.
Yeah. Okay. And the good thing is, when we're done cutting this hole, you can also sand it out. So if you miss by a millimeter, you can kind of sand it and get to where you need to be.
And even if you're not gonna use a pop, you still gonna need to drill the hole for magsafe hoarding in magsafe know, they mad, they're not really, they're very weak.
Mm-hmm.
Holding on.
Yep. Now see, I can already tell this edge is a real problem because the edge actually goes down below where the circle is. The circle sort of intrudes on that even. So what I'm going to have to do is move the hole down a tiny bit, and I can just tell that by where I am here. So I'm going to begin the hole, you know, and so the drill bit doesn't slip. You want to take a sharp tool, find the spot where you want the center to be, and just poke it through and make a hole. And then the tip of the drill will catch there, and you'll know that you're gonna do it right there. Now that I made that hole, I'm gonna measure again. Just measure, always measure twice. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really close when I drill it. Yeah, the problem is when I drill this bit might catch this edge. That's the part that's gonna be bad. And now that I'm thinking about that, I think the best thing I can do is drill this hole a tiny bit lower than I want to, because then I can use sandpaper to open up the top of it a little bit and be cautious not to hit that edge, because this drill, this is unforgiving. If this touches that edge, it's going to hack it up. So I think I'm going to move this down a little bit. I'm going to make another hole just right below that and give myself just a couple of millimeters difference. And I think we're going to be really glad we did that.
And don't need my
Yeah, again, you need tool skills and really be careful. And don't do it at all if you don't have somebody to help you, or if you're really good with it and have good dexterity and can do this. Okay. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is, just to be sure, I'm going to actually drill a hole here, because the drill of this hole, this is a pretty big drill bit here. I'm going to take a slightly smaller one with my regular drill, because I just did 2 little holes and I don't want the drill bit to grab and kind of slip into the other hole. So if I take this regular drill, I'm going to make a hole, a starter hole. There we go. Now I'll be sure that this drill bit's going to catch in the right spot. It's going to sit right in that hole and go. And I can see from above, if you look at it, you can kind of look from above, you can kind of tell that that edge is just going to miss this edge. You can eyeball it and make sure that you're on the right track. Let's hope. Yeah, I think it's going to be just fine. And then we can use sandpaper. So what I'm going to do first is, and this is again comes from experience, having done this a couple times. The way these hole saws work, you just stick it into a regular drill. You buy this as one thing at Home Depot.
I'll make it
Yeah, and this is a what's the size on this sucker? This is the lighting here is not great. 2 1/4. So this is a 2 1/4 hole, and the pop socket's 2 1/4. It's just exactly right. So it's just enough to fit, to just barely get the hole big enough. But what I did the first couple times I did this, I put it in here, drilled down. But the problem is this bit has real wide threads on it, and it pulls it down so fast into the case that it's this drill bit will want to keep going and keep pulling, and it doesn't give it a chance to spin fast and make a real clean cut. So it kind of hacks up the case a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the hole. So I'm going to put the bit where in that starter hole. I'm going to drill a little bit in. Oh, actually, I don't need to do that. Here's what I'm doing. Now that I already did the starter hole, so the wood already has a hole in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my own drill bit that's just about this size, maybe even a teeny bit bigger. Because what I want to happen is this drill bit to be a good guide to keep it right where it needs to be, but I don't want the drill bit to grab and pull it down into the wood, because that makes me have to go faster than I really want to go. So I'm going to get a drill bit that's about the same size as this, like that one. And I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole all the way through this wood. And then that way, when I'm drilling for the case, I can take my time and move and put the pressure on just the way I want it. Because I like to keep the drill thing spinning kind of fast and just slowly go into it. And I think that's going to make a cleaner cut. So I'm just going to drill that. And then this will just fit in there perfectly. Okay? Okay. We're getting there. Still awake? Okay.
How about any industrial techniques that are maybe willing to help students with them?
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
And no, ask them.
Yeah, if you're in school.
If you're in school, no, ask them. Because I know I had a teacher that would do this for me.
Yeah, you definitely would have. I know your guys would have been like, sure, Anna, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be better than me at it. And
if you use your phone at school with some people do ability reading, they might do it.
okay, so now, and this is the part that's probably the only really dangerous part. I'm going to have to hold this. And if I really wanted to be extra safe, what I could do is take a larger piece of wood like this. So if you want to be safer than I'm about to be, you could take this block, screw it onto a larger piece of wood, and then put the phone. So this would be, this would not be moving. Yeah, not the case. You just take this block, screw it on so it doesn't move, and then you have a thing that I can hold it here on this big piece and drill. That'd be probably even safer. But I've done this before, so I'm going to go ahead and do it the slightly less safe way. But it's still, I think it's still safe. Especially since I just drilled that pilot hole, because that's going to allow this thing not to be grabbing and pulling and spinning and quite as much, which would be really nice. So, this is where you either ruin the case or it works great. Here we go. Are you ready, Anna?
Yeah.
Okay, you say go.
No.
That's what I did not like to happen. I don't know why it grabbed like that. I didn't think it would. Hope I didn't. And it just remembered what I did last time. I should have done it this time. I actually put the drill on backwards last time, I think. Maybe not. Maybe these teeth. Yeah, I think I did. I think I did it backward, because when you do it backwards, it just kind of slowly grinds it instead of cutting sharply. And I'm going to try that for a second here. Put it on reverse. And we've got our safety glasses on in case there's little pieces of metal. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Drill backwards. I forgot about that little tip. And that way it just gently grinds it out without it grabbing like it did before. Because you do it the clockwise way, it really grabs because it's going to cut through wood or whatever. So, luckily, nothing happened that was bad. I didn't lose a limb. And the case looks pretty good. So, and boy, did I get close. Look at that. Look how close it is to the, see how close it is to the window? That was the goal. So, all right, so now there's one more trick to this that I learned. And we'll show you in a minute a different video, Anna's charger. And she has a, what kind of charger is it?
I have a magsafe phone stand, because I know you can
MagSafe phone stand.
I know you can lay your phone on top of a magsafe, but that makes really hard for me. I'm trying to use the phone before. I mean, if the man I want it up higher so I can type text.
While it's charging? Yeah.
Not while it's running. This purely so I can stand it up and not have to lean over and do it on the table.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Bad for my back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what? Well, unfortunately, this case, yeah, I don't know if it's because I did it wrong. I should have done it backwards, but it grabbed and it, you see the case, the little laminate came up a little bit here. So you see how that came up?
Yeah.
it's a little messed up, and it's partly because the way this case is oriented, the thing's a little bit to the right, but I think it may have just because it grabbed there. I don't know if I can fix it or not. Yeah, maybe it'll go right back down. Maybe not. Okay. Well, we'll see about that. I might be able to fix that or re-glue it or something. But let me continue on. I'll show them because there's one more thing I got to show them. So what I do then is
It won't be like we made it off the video pretty nice.
that's right. I'll show you all what not to do. Where's my little file? I should have gotten my file at first. Well, I can use sandpaper to show you. So there's a couple things you want to do when you're finishing it. One is there's a little bit of edge here on that, so you want to get the edge down. That's true.
So what will we talk about?
So the charger is the second part of this. I'll talk about that. I'm just going to use one of these little sponges. That's probably not a bad way to go. A sanding sponge. Okay. So you want to kind of get that edge down very lightly, so it's not sticking up above. When you grab the phone, you won't feel that edge. And I got to be careful of this little lens cover here. So I want to get rid of that edge just so it's smooth. That's pretty good. It didn't take much. Okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. But what I made the mistake last time of doing is I sanded too much here, and this is hard to describe, but if I sand around like this, I create a little taper to it. Like the hole is here, and instead of being flat, it's tapered out a little bit. Then the problem is when you try to hang it, put it on the charger, it won't. It'll slip right down because.
And then it'll sometimes end up on the floor, and you have to find your parents or animal.
So I have to smooth that out, but then I have to go to the inside, and what helps here is, let's see, I want the taper to be like this, because I kind of want to have an edge out here that it can hang on. As I'll show you Anna's charger, it's one of those slanted ones, and since the charger itself doesn't have something that sticks out, it's not like this pop socket that's going to go inside the case. It actually has to sit out, kind of outside. And so we modified our charger a little bit so that the little circle that it sits on sticks out a little bit. And so I want this to be able to grab onto that edge. So I go to the inside and just start to do it like this at an angle, which will create, it's really more important at the top here. I want this to be, like I do it at this angle, this is the top of the phone, and I just sand this down for a little bit. And that creates a slant like this on that will then create an edge that can sit on that charger, if that makes sense. It's a little hard to describe, I know, but so I just go back and forth like this at an angle for a while. And that way it's got the proper edge, proper angle to sit on that charger. Just go back and forth, back and forth. That, and you can kind of feel that edge. Okay. All right. So let's see. What else? Anything?
No, we talked about why I need the top of the room.
Yep. And I'm also going to do the inside edge. I realize it can be a little rough in here. You got to be careful. You could almost get cut on some of these little splinters. The way that those hole saws are not subtle things. So you got to make sure you get rid of all the sharp edges inside, because you might have some in there. I'll do it on this side.
So we talked about phone being slippery and stuff.
Yeah, the phone being slippery, yeah.
And if you will need it, if you don't have a magsafe, or maybe if it's not holding on well enough, you're gonna have to do something like this, to make it work.
Okay, now it's all smooth. It feels smooth out here. But again, it's not tapered this way because then it would slide right off the charger. Okay, so that's it. We did it almost perfectly except for that little tiny glitch. And I might be able to glue that down. We'll see. Okay. What do you think? All right, we'll go upstairs.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, I'm an Android party.
Oh, please.
Now, I mean, on that, I can tell you that. But here's the thing done, and I'm gonna tell you my papa and why I use it too.
There, see, it fits right in. But it's not. Oh, you get it? There we go.
I always.
Whoops. Oh, it came out? Yeah, we have to work on that a little bit. I think the problem with this case and phone is because it works perfectly on other phones, but because the iPhone 14 has all these lenses, this camera part comes down further toward the center of the case. And the magnetic ring is just snugged up against that. And so it's harder to drill a hole for an iPhone 14 because this hole has to be right up against that lens. So I'm going to sand it a little bit more. That might make it a little stronger, but this thing is grabbing just a couple millimeters below where it should, and that's why it's not quite as strong. But hopefully still helpful.
Let me how you hold it, and this will prevent you from dropping it when you're on the phone.
Yeah, got your fingers around it. That helps a little bit.
Yep, and then when you're one-handed testing here, that I'll tell you, for them to, I will test that. My
phone number on there.
Huh?
We don't want phone numbers on there. Oh, okay.
Dad.
Okay. Yeah.
I type one-handed, so having a lip on the back of your phone when you're typing one-handed really helps.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
And then,
Want me to show them the charger?
Too, yeah.
So the charger was another little adaptation here because this is the charger, and it's the kind that sits kind of at an angle like that. The only problem is normally there's no edge here, and it's a little easier because the thickness of this case. See, when it's up against there, it has to grab on. So what I do is, remember I was sanding it carefully so it has a little bit of a edge here inside. And so what I've done with the charger is in the back, this thing pops out. This part pops out. Oops, sorry. This part pops out of the charger. So what I did is I put a little piece of tape back here in between the top. See, just a little bit of tape. And when I push it in now, it leaves a little tiny edge here on top sticking out. And that's what the case can grab onto real easily. And it gives it just that extra bit of something to hold on to while it sits there and charges. So that works out really well for charging.
And then my hand testing when you're trying to hold it on, and then myself who needs to make Instagram or whatever, then that makes
Yeah, so you can just use the phone and have the camera on you while it's in its stand, and it's still charging and all that. So that works out great.
Yeah, and I hope this video will help
Yeah.